Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Season 8 of Stand Up and Stand Out para te y desde. I'm your hostess with the mostest, Nikki Green. Throughout the past 8 seasons, we have worked to showcase some incredible guests with eclectic backgrounds so you can see that success comes in many shapes and sizes. On our path to episode 100, we have some new inspiring interviews to celebrate this important milestone of our podcast. As I add retreats into my coaching program, I'm looking forward to meeting more of you in person and connecting with you beyond the podcast. I hope you enjoy Season 8, and I look forward to hearing your feedback and comments on the fascinating topics we will cover with each new guest. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Stand Up and Stand Out para te y desde. We are in Season 8 on our way to the magical episode 100, and we have another amazing guest for you today. Hello, Sally Reid. Welcome to the show.
Hello, and thanks for having me.
Sally and I have run in the same circles for a while, and I'm so blessed to finally have her on the show and get to share some of her amazing talents with you. And so as we kick things off and we start talking about celebrations and milestones, I know there's been some pretty impactful milestones in your life, Sally. So why don't you share a little bit with our audience the background of the wonderful Sally Reid?
It's funny you say that. Everybody has some milestones, and mine are the usual. Growing up, getting married, falling over dead, getting back up. It's lovely to have the perspective that time gives you. That long, because y'all can tell that I am not a young woman. I've been alive for a little bit. But just like travel opens your eyes, passing from one dimension to the next really opens your eyes. And I can credit a lot of what I know specifically to that.
That's amazing. And some people are going to be like, wow, how did that happen? That must have been incredibly scary, a time of fear. And yet, you've come out of it and felt joy and really learned some true lessons and put you on a path. I think people would love to hear a little bit more of how the journey happened.
Well, that's interesting when you talk about the path. And that is why I do what I do. Everybody has multiple gifts. Everybody has infinite potential. We just can't see it. We just can't feel it. We just can't know it. We stay where we're safe, right? Or we'll let life knock us down. That, you're into resiliency. I'm into resiliency. And when you said about scary, there is nothing more terrifying to know that you have done something that's undoable. Do you know what I mean? That you suddenly have, I'm sure a lot of the Olympic athletes have that same feeling like, oh my goodness, look what I did. That was hard work. Mine was not hard work. It's shockingly effortless to die. I'm not going to die. It really is. It's effortless. There's a whole lot of people that transition all the time. But in this particular case, I'm a horse trainer, and I came off my horse, and I didn't know it at the time, but I broke my neck, 3 vertebrae in my neck. It was physically impossible for me to live. I have the doctor's testimony that says, how are you still breathing? But what happened is, after the fact, I understood what a miracle that was. To be laying there dead for 45 minutes and then get up and walk around and do housework and cook dinner and drive myself to a hospital and then have everybody freak out. So yeah, that was terrifying. Like, why me? I went through a period of why me. That's uncommon, but it does help you grow, because here's the one thing about resiliency. Why me is never the question to ask. It's to what purpose? To what outcome? To what benefit? It's never why me, because why me is the question of a child.
That's really important, I think. And it shows this important level of maturity that happens when we go through these big milestones in life. And they're not always comfortable. A lot of times they are very uncomfortable in the moment. And there's 2 paths that you can take. You can take that why me mode, and we get stuck in this sort of downward spiral where it's very hard for us to get back up again because we're questioning the past instead of looking towards the future and taking that gift of being essentially reborn to, revive, right? It's like, no, I have a second chance to be able to do things. And it's pretty amazing. Just thinking back, my mom was a collegiate gymnast. You were talking about athletes, and she fell in college and broke her neck, and just the severity of like that recovery and how long it took. And took her out of something she loved, gymnastics, and set her on a new path, which is where I would be born. So thank you. I mean, so sometimes fortuitously, that not the path you choose, but things happen. And just the gifts that you have and you continue to use them because you're on this path. So maybe share where you found that calling through that process of reawakening.
The best way to say it is, a quote. Many are called, but few will answer. You know that quote. I was called hard, and I tried not to answer, but I kind of had no choice. My life almost turned into, what I felt like? And this will align with a lot of people who have seen this. I felt like I was in a catch pen and I was getting driven to the chute, with cattle prods the whole way. I almost had no choice. Every time I tried to divert, my life became very uncomfortable. Every time I went back on the path, my life became more comfortable. Even though it was uncomfortable on the path, it was worse off the path. And humans are universally pain avoidant. We just are, which is why so many people got trained with pain rather than love, right? Because we're universally pain avoidant. So I asked myself, what would be so bad about stepping up and using these gifts? And I'm going to enumerate the gifts. And Nikki had a little bit of a taste of it this morning, where I have the ability to trace a current symptom in your life. And it can be any kind of a life, any kind of a symptom. It can be, a business trouble. It could be, why isn't this launch working? Why la la la. And in Nikki's case, it was very simple. Her voice was giving her trouble. And she talks. How can her voice give her trouble? Right? And she'll verify this. In about 15 seconds, we found the origin of it. And it was years and years ago, this origin. There's a rock in the river. Found it, resolved it, and she physically felt the change. That's what I was left with being able to do after moving to my near-death experience. And you can probably understand that for a commercial outside sales rep, one could not see the reason why I was given that gift.
Well, that's the thing is we get on these other paths of, how we're going to make money and provide for our families. And a lot of times that doesn't actually resonate with our best gifts. It's sort of a means to an end, but the fulfilling part, the purpose part, that can come to us in so many other ways and is how we really affect people. But a lot of times we do shy away from that path because, again, that sort of fear or, all the I shoulds and all those things from the past, those rocks in the river, keep us from just going with the flow, right? And keeping things moving. So thank you very much for the voice thing, because as I said, this isn't just a gift of today, like I can get here on this podcast for an hour, but I have a big event tonight. I have another big event tomorrow. There's all these things where my voice is my job. If I can't talk, then that really keeps me from being able to help others. And so just keeping this momentum going, it's really amazing. So thank you for, sharing with me this morning before we jumped on the podcast. I really appreciate it. And I think people are going to be really touched by, the amazing things that you've been able to do for people. I know you use this bliss system, and maybe you can share a little bit about that and how you help people.
Certainly. Because what I do is so, otherworldly, I asked, is there a way that I could help people access their own personal gifts? And it's very simple. I use the word bliss just because that's what we're looking for, right, guys? We are looking for freaking bliss. I mean, yeah, we're looking for money, but ultimately we're looking for bliss. So the first B in bliss is belief. Focus on verifying what you believe. Seriously. I mean, I once knew of a grown man, and he confessed that when he was a child, he was afraid to eat the crust on his toast because at one point at a family dinner, his uncle teased him and said, if you eat those crusts, your hair is going to get curly. And no girl likes a curly-headed boy. He must have been 5, maybe 4 at the time. And as a grown man, he still didn't eat the crusts until he realized that belief is so bogus. So, it's crazy. So first, look at what you believe is true, because chances are, if it's not true for everybody, then it's not true for you. It's just a moment in time where you had a lesson and you learned and you created a truth that may not be true. And here's another example of that. When I was about 2.5 or 3, I wandered towards the road. And we can imagine as a mother, right? And you know what I learned? I learned instead of don't go in the road, I learned don't walk away from mommy or she will beat you. So I basically learned how to heel like a dog. Don't walk away from mommy. She'll hit you. I never learned a thing about the road. So that's the kind of false lessons that we can learn.
And I think many of us have had more of those lessons than we would have liked over time. And I don't think we remember as clearly as that. And that's part of the challenge is until someone can really uncover some of those things for them, they're not going to be able to get rid of them. They have this belief, and it's grown over time into, not just sort of something that happened, but an actual like foundation of their being. And you've got to get rid of that stuff so that you can go forward, because most of that stuff is not serving us in any kind of way.
It isn't. So that's the first beat. Check your beliefs, because they do turn into literal rocks. And by the way, the only reason I can remember this stuff is remember the part when you die and you get a life review? And by the way, it happens really fast. It's like in 10x speed. I was able to retain a lot of it. And it's weird, like little reasons, like will come up for me like that. The L part is listen to your intuition. How many times have you had a gut feeling, just a little inkling, and you ignored it? And it worked out really badly. And then you tell yourself, oh, I knew that was going to happen. Well, if you knew it, why did you do it? Listen to it. Because the more you honor it, the stronger and more powerful it becomes. And we all want our intuition to guide us. That's why we have it. And it's like having a GPS and not using it and stumbling around trying to find the thing that you're looking for. No, freaking turn on the GPS.
I love that, because I know a lot of my clients come to me and it's like they know the answer. They know the answer that's right for them, but they're still like wishing for validation, all this external validation from other people to be like, oh yes, that's definitely the right one. When everyone who's going to give you an opinion is giving you that. It's an opinion. You have to start trusting who you are. And making those decisions and making them faster. We spend so much time deliberating. You're missing the point of the intuition that you should know from that gut check what's the right thing.
It's true. But we learn not to trust our guts. Remember the previous mother story? A lot of our parents taught us not to trust our guts because it got us into trouble. It did. So we learned that whatever came from the inside is probably wrong, and whatever comes from the outside is probably right. And that, guys, I hate to say it, is 100% learned. 100%. And it's a wonderful excuse, but it's 100% fear-based. So if you catch yourself living by committee and ignoring your truth, then look for the underlying fear. What are you really afraid of? The next thing is after you're listening and after you started looking for the underlying fear, that's the I part, is identify. Identify those things that are misaligned. And here's what I do. I'll do a gut check, and then I'll come up with some sort of emotion or feeling. It's very nebulous sometimes. We can't know it. People are probably not going to get it handed to them on a silver platter, because at some point in their lives, they said to their subconscious, take this, hide it from me. I don't want to ever hear it again. It is shoved in there deep. So you're going to get a feeling. You're going to get some sort of noticing. And then you're going to ask yourself, do I really believe this? You're going to use your intuition again. Gut check it. Do I really believe I am useless and stupid? Do I really believe that? Do I really believe everybody else is better than me? No, y'all, you do not. Not at your deepest core. That is your stinking thinking. And oftentimes those things we say out loud, well, in our brains out loud, are things that we would never say to anybody else. So here's another trick. When you identify the stinking thinking, like I used to spend 25 minutes in my closet yelling at myself every single morning. Now, how's that going to set you up for a great day? When I started saying it out loud and hearing it, it was horrifying. So that's a next trick to help you identify. Say that crap out loud. And your partner or yourself are going to go, what the heck are you talking about?
We have all these negative thoughts just running our lives so often. And you don't know, because like you said, so many of us have also been told emotions are bad, push them down, right? We don't cry in baseball, whatever all the things are. And then it's like, no, but if you can't recognize those emotions, if you can't actually articulate them, how are you going to address them and figure out what your intuition is trying to tell you? And then you've got this negative, narrative going on up here. And again, probably people from way beyond telling you that, you weren't good enough at some point, or that, again, not to trust yourself. And yeah, that practice of telling, saying it out loud, all of a sudden you're like, man, I wouldn't say that's my worst enemy. Why am I saying that to myself? And give ourselves more grace and start to uncover what these things are that we keep pushing down so we can get more quickly on the right path. I really like that one. I think that one's a hard one for a lot of people.
What's really interesting is that remember we talked about rocks, all of those are bound there by unresolved, shoved down emotion. It's really even weirder than that. Some of these false rules that I uncover for people, remember I said I can go wherever it is. Sometimes they go back generations. Freaking generations that they've been passed down person to person to person. This is the truth for our family. It may not be true for other families, but our family is this. I worked with a Ukrainian woman. When she was a child, things were bad as well. And what she learned is other people can be happy, but I'm not allowed to be. Because when I am happy, bad things happen. Imagine learning that, because that was the family truth. It's so sad. So that's why you go back to the identify, feel those misaligned rules and notice them. And then the next S is C, no more sleepwalking, no more zombie living. And this is how I explain it. See what's actually there. That's what the talking out loud is. That's what's the understanding what's really going on. Because here's the thing. Have you ever tried to teach somebody something and they go, oh, I know. That's what you're doing to yourself. You know. No, you don't. Otherwise, you wouldn't do that crap. So see it for what it really is. And the final S in bliss is sustain. Every time you hit a resistance, or every time you hit a roadblock or a knockdown, look at it as, what do I believe about this? Who am I listening to? Am I listening to myself or others? What can I identify? What am I really seeing? What's really there? Just do the whole thing over again. Sustain this by repeating the process. It's a simple process. And you can do it yourself. You don't need a guru to teach it to you. You've been doing it your whole life. You just don't realize it.
Well, and that's it. It's that pattern's on repeat, just in a negative way for us. So how do we put it in a more positive way so that we can keep healing ourselves every time these milestones, these crossroads happen to us? Stop getting into the cattle prod and get on the path and feel there is going to be discomfort to go on that path. But it's going to be a lot less than if we don't, right? I think that is just such a perfect metaphor for how many of us are living. We're just kind of keep trying to go against the grain when we should just go with the flow and make the real thing happen that we're supposed to be doing and be on the right path.
Well, a universal truth is we universally need to be on our correct path. Everybody does. And if we have set up a bunch of barriers to this path, they are going to be the repeated things like, why do I keep going out with this same guy? Or why does this always happen to me? If you catch yourself asking these why questions, guaranteed it's a life lesson. And why is not the question you need to ask. Guaranteed. This is the question you're going to ask. Instead of why do I always date the same guy? What am I missing about these freaking guys? Who do these guys remind me of? What can I learn about myself that I'm attracted to these guys? Do you get it? It's never freaking why.
As I've been doing this work over the last few years, more personal, like really digging into what are those beliefs, it just realizes I can look back in so many times, so many crossroads in my life where I was just beating my head against the wall, like trying to go on a path that, again, other people around me were like, this is your path. And I was like, it doesn't feel like my path. This feels like it sucks. This feels like not the way I want to go. Career-wise, personally, there was a lot of things, but I just kept beating my head against the wall doing the thing. And it was painful. It was that cattle prod, like constantly going, that's not it. And that's not it. And when I finally got to this place where it's like, no, we're going to do it differently. We are going to just really trust where we're supposed to be. We're not going to overthink. We're not going to over question. We're not going to ask everybody else around us. We're going to ask for support when we need it, when we're kind of feeling low, emotionally, spiritually, whatever. But at the end of the day, it's my life, it's my decisions, and I need to start really stepping into those things I'm supposed to be doing. So I really love the work that you're doing to continue to help people do that, because it changes your whole being of what happens after that. And not only can you help yourself, but you begin to help other people around you, because then you're walking in your truth, they can walk in theirs, and so on and so on. All the rocks are out of the river and we're just flowing.
One of the things people could also notice, and this I've found to be very true for women, what is your level of responsibility? Are you taking 110 or 120% of responsibility? Because you're only required to do 100%, just saying. And are you being a victim about it, or are you going to empower yourself to identify what is your responsibility and what isn't your responsibility? For example, if you have elder teens, the 18, 19-year-olds, and they are still leaning on mom to do everything, isn't it possible that you taught them to do that? Isn't it possible you can say, I trust you, honey. I appreciate asking for my advice. Now you go try. Come back if you have more trouble and I'll give you more advice. Pull yourself back out of their lives. Is your partner your child, or is he your partner? He has 2 arms and 2 legs, and maybe he doesn't want to do it, and it's easy to let you do things. Are your clients asking you to carry their load? Just look around in your life. Where are you taking more than 100% responsibility? Because that's going to pull on your bandwidth and prevent you from growth. It's going to make it easy to step back and say, why me? Oh, I can't. I don't have the energy. I don't want to try. So that's another big tip.
That one, I think, like you said, for women especially, to stop that narrative, like we're the victim of the situation of what's happening. We're at a time where absolutely we can step forward and start to set better boundaries. The kid thing, I definitely felt that throughout my life. And it was a lot like you were saying, your example when you were young. I didn't learn not to run into the street. I learned not to be too far away from mom. And as your kids grow up, it's hard sometimes to give them that freedom, but you can't also equally resent them. Like, I got to do their laundry and cook for them, and they're so lazy. They're lazy because you let them be. If you're in charge, you're in charge. Be the adult and start to teach them how to be better adults. But I think you hit the nail on the head too with a lot of entrepreneurs that I work with in how they treat their clients in the same way, that they're coddling them through that and letting them put the burden on them. And the accountability needs to be on your client to do the work. I always talk about when people come to work with me, I'm a coach's coach. I've played sports my whole life. I'm going to tell you you're out of position and you need to go do it. I'm not cheerleaders. I'm not here to rah-rah you. I will support you in your journey, but you ultimately have to do that. And a lot of people don't like that kind of coaching. They want a coach that is going to come here and coddle and, pacify and everything. And that's not helping people. There has to be a better boundary. And the partnership thing, definitely with my first husband, I had to learn that the hard way. Is I'm a super extrovert and is a very big introvert. And he was like, don't set me up on play dates, right? Like literally that child's saying of, I don't want to go hang out with random strangers that just because they're somebody else's spouse or, because you're going to the party. So listening to each other, really giving each other what they need, and standing in your own truth to do the things that you need to do. I think those were such really solid examples that I think any one of us can probably identify with one or two, maybe all three of them.
I definitely practice what I preach. And I always used to tell my children, much to their dislike, starting at about 16, I'm raising adults, not children. Go back and try it again. Because they are. They're practicing to be an adult. And what better time to practice to be an adult when you're still living with your parents and it's a safe space?
You have cushion to fail and get up and try again. You're not, destitute and can't eat and don't have a roof over your head. All of your basic needs are met. So it's up to you to step up into that next level of actualization and learn what it means for you. Make your own decisions and hopefully make good ones and be able to start trusting your intuition. Yeah, if you don't, then we're here to catch it. Yeah.
I mean, like mine, I have millennials and I'm a boomer and I have millennials. And they both are living healthy and happy on their own and have been since they were, just right out of the nest. They both had the skills. So it's up to us to help them. Now, if they come back for a minute or two, but not, they live with me. And I'm saying that also with people and their clients, just like you don't do it. I'm not a Sherpa. I don't want it more than you do. And having my special sharps tools, I can see exactly where the rocks are in the river. And I'm not going to carry your rocks. And do it. Either you make friends with them on your own self, which is what the bliss system does. It helps you make friends with your rocks, identify them and decide whether you want to put them down or carry them, or I will take them out of you with your permission. That's what I do. But I am not going to let you keep a rock just because you love it and then tell me you want me to carry it.
I love that. We're going to have to put that on a pillowcase. Well, Sally, I could talk to you for hours and hours. And luckily, you're not too far away from me. So at some point, we're going to catch up in person and we're going to hang out over, I don't know, a warm cup of tea. But let people know where they can find you so they can learn more about the work that you do. And I believe you also have a free gift.
I do. Yes. SallyReid.com. Just type SallyReid.com and it'll show right up. And there are gifts on that page as well. But the gift I want to give you is self-care in a different sort of a way. You know, I do ask pointy questions. And there are 5 different areas of your life. It's a mini course where you can ask yourself questions. There's about 15 questions, like simple ones. You know, sometimes as an entrepreneur, have you eaten today, princess? Have you been outside? Are you still sitting in your chair? But there's other ones, you know, how can I look at this differently? What do I know about this? What do I don't know about this? Who do I know can help me? There are different areas of your life and questions, and it's simple to go through, but powerful questions. And I know you'll love it.
Oh, I love it already. I'm going to take it myself, kids. So don't forget to reach out and grab the website. And we'll put everything in the show notes. But I know you're also big on TikTok. So I know you're reaching a lot of wonderful people there.
Yeah, I love TikTok. I mean, yeah, I hope it doesn't go away. But I do reach a lot of people on TikTok. And it's so much fun to be able to condense your thoughts. Really, everybody should be on TikTok. To be able to condense your thoughts into a cogent soundbite, essentially. It basically teaches you how to convey your message succinctly. And if that doesn't get your clients, I don't know what will.
There you go. TikTok as an elevator pitch practice. We've got a whole new way to sell it, and hopefully we'll keep it around for a little bit longer. Well, Sally, I loved spending time with you. This has been amazing to get to learn a little bit more about your story and your methodology. I know you're helping lots of people. I hope through this podcast, we'll continue to share your message and more people will reach out and check out your free gift. Thank you so much for joining today.
Thank you. And by the way, at SallyReid.com, if you're interested in working with me directly for, me to find your rocks, there's a way to connect with me and we can get on a call together.
Beautiful. Thanks for listening and celebrating our 8th season and 100th episode. We hope you've enjoyed this week's show. Please don't forget to share your thoughts on this topic with us across our social channels. You can find them at the NikkiGreen360.com. TTFN, this is Nikki signing off.